English and the humanities and essays of this sort are about taking an argumentative stance on something and trying to back it up as best you can. You could be wrong. That's okay. It's figuring out how to argue it. Okay. How do you write a conclusion? You've all been taught that a conclusion is about reiterating the thesis statement or re-emphasizing the final points. I don't want you to do that in this essay. I don't necessarily want you to do that in any essay, but we'll get into different types of conclusions in another lecture. For this essay, I want you to answer a couple of questions in your conclusion. So, one, why, in your conclusion, explain why are these values important? Why does it matter? Why is it important that these popular icons have taken these values and used them to become famous? Why is that important? Why is understanding the values of this icon important? Two. So you might think about it in the other way of what does that teach us about ourselves as Americans? How does that make sense of our culture and our country and our problems and our successes? Understanding what values we find in our pop icons can help explain some of that. Two, in your opinion, are they good or bad values? And going along with that, has this pop icon had a good or bad influence on America? What is it? Now, for most of you, if you're writing about a favorite icon, you're probably going to argue that yes, their values are good. That's fine. You're probably going to argue that yes, they have had a good influence on American society. They've done good things for people. That's part of why they're popular. And that's okay. Just tell me that. Tell me what they've done that you think has made the world a better place. Tell me why you think their values are important and why they're good. Give me that information in the conclusion. Again, a conclusion can be a full half a page. You can go into detail on all this stuff. But it can also be simpler. You might end up with just 3 or 4 sentences explaining this. But as long as you answer those questions, you're going to be able to get the points. Okay. Let's take a look at the rubric on this essay. In order to get full credit on this essay, you have to cite at least one source. In a minute, I'm going to talk about how to cite sources. Some of you have already done it. If you haven't, I'm going to give you an introduction to how to do that. So at some point in this essay, you're going to need to find an external piece of evidence and cite it in the essay properly. But that's not the only major requirement. So if you look at the rubric, we'll scroll in on it here, you can see how the points break down. The main criteria, the main thing I'm looking for, which is 40% of the grade, 40 out of 100, is tell me what makes your subject an American icon. So basically, write the introduction to the paper. Explain to me why they're an icon, why they're popular. How did that get there? How did that happen? 2, having a thesis statement. Explain the 3 values that your icon represents. So tell me what your interpretation is. 3, give us the background information. So tell us, how did this icon start out? How do they get to where they are? The rest of the grade, 10%, is clarity and grammar. So obviously you don't want to make any grammar mistakes, you don't want to make spelling errors, but you can still get an A- on this paper even if you have a few grammar errors. As long as you answer the other questions, you're going to get the points. So make sure that you can answer those questions in order to get full credit on the assignment. The last thing, if you are having issues with this, please reach out to me. If you're having trouble getting started, send me an email, give me a call, and stop by my office in 180. I'm always available during office hours. I'm sometimes available on Mondays and Wednesdays when I have classes. So come by and check in and we can work on the essay. 2, I always suggest getting tutoring. If you have time to meet with a tutor this week to work on your essay, you can always make it easier. Okay, so there is a little bit of background on the icon essay. Now I'm going to do a quick introduction to MLA style. MLA style is used in English and humanities. It's what you're going to be writing all your essays in all of your English and humanities general education courses here at Cogswell. MLA stands for Modern Language Association style. MLA is just a particular type of format. It's a particular style of writing, and it has its own rules and regulations. And various disciplines have their own styles. So, for example, journalism is written in a style known as APA, the American Press Association style. History is mostly written in what is called Chicago style. A lot of scientific articles are written in Chicago style. Now, for most of you, you're not going to have to write scientific papers at Cogswell. You're not going to be doing journalism unless you're on the school newspaper. So this will be the style guide you're going to be using mostly. The main thing that MLA does is it has specific formatting for how you cite information. The place you're going to find all of this is the Purdue OWL. The OWL is an online website run by the University of Purdue, which is their online writing lab. Instead of having to buy another book with a whole other list of information on how to cite MLA, you can just use this website. It's pretty definitive. It's got all the information you're going to need. The link to the website is actually in the icon essay instructions, but I'll pull it up right here. So they've got a whole bunch of different sections. It may be hard to see, but on this left-hand side, they've got a whole list of information on writing. So they've got a general writing section, they've got a conducting research style guide, they have an APA style guide. The two that we're going to be looking at in detail are in-text citations and the basic works cited. Those are the two we're going to use. Okay, so first, before we go into those and go through the web pages, you may be asking why. Why do we need a style guide? Why do we have to use MLA? Why do we have to do any of this? The reason is so that you can put other people's words and information and thoughts into your essays and not plagiarize them. So This is basically just a guide showing you how to insert other people's words into your essay and properly give them credit so that you don't get marked for plagiarism. Because we don't want to do that. We've talked about that in previous lectures. In MLA, there are two ways of doing this, or there are two parts to it. The first one is when you quote someone in your paper, you have to tell the reader during the end of that sentence that this is where the quotation came from. At the end of the paper, you have a works cited page, which lists in detail who the author is, what the title of the work is, where it was published, all that information. This sets it up so that the reader doesn't necessarily have to go and check the last page and look for details, but they can if they want to. They have the information as they're reading if they want to go look at it. So let's take a look at in-text citation first. So on this left-hand side, on the OWL website, we scroll down, click on MLA in-text citations, the basic. So, the basics of in-text citation. One, keep in mind this is also known as parenthetical citation because the citations are in parentheses. So what you'll do is, after a quotation, you'll put in two parentheses. Inside of this, the end of the sentence, you'll put who the author is, and then you'll put the page number. And you'll put the period on the other end. It's called a parenthetical citation, in-text citation. Now, what we list as the author, or if we list a page number, depends on the source. The source could be a book, it could be a movie, more often than not it'll be a website. So how we cite that will change, but here's the basic stuff. So let's say you're quoting from Writing with Style, okay? Let's just take a quotation from chapter 2. Let's do chapter 3. So here's part of the quotation. Let's say I'm talking about how to start an essay, okay? And I say, this type of beginning is known as the front door approach. So these are my words in this essay that I'm writing. This type of beginning is known as, okay, those are my words. Here's the quotation. These are John Tripple's words, the front door approach. So the quotes tell the reader, okay, this is someone else's words. And then I have to put a citation. We have to put an in-text citation. An in-text citation, I'll put it over here so you can see what we're doing. We got our two parentheses, okay? First thing we're going to put is the author, John R. Trimble. Now, do we put his whole name? No. MLA style requires us to just put the last name. So we just put Trimble. It also should have a comma after it. And we have to list the page number. This is from page 26. We're almost done. We're missing something. There's something missing in the sentence. It's what tells us the sentence is over. Just a period. That's it. That's the in-text citation. Now, as you'll see on the OWL website, there are lots of different types of information out there. So you might have an author. What if you don't have an author? What if you find an article and it seems reliable, but there isn't any author? Well, you cite the first part of the title. So the example they give, I'll scroll in on this so you can see more clearly. The example they give is titled The Impact of Global Warming in North America, from a book called Global Warming, Early Signs. There's the rest of the information on it. There's no author. So what do you cite? Well, you cite the first part of the title. So you just put in the impact of global warming in quotations. There are other different things you could cite, but those are the basic two. So you're going to cite the author, and you're going to put what page number it's from. If you don't have a page number, then you don't cite one. You can cite the paragraph, but the general standard is to just put the author. Okay, so that's the in-text citation. The main thing to keep in mind is keep the period on this side. Make sure you have your quotations in the right space. Make sure you list the author. If you're not sure of how to cite something, look on the out and make sure you've got it correct. Now what about the works cited page? How do we cite John Trimble at the end of the essay? So if we go over here and look at our works cited page, first you might ask, well, what is a works cited page? It's a page at the end of your essay with a centered heading that says works cited, and it's where you list all the people that you've quoted in your book, or in your essay, excuse me. The main thing to keep in mind for this is you need to cite all the information about the source. We do it in a specific format, but fundamentally it comes down to author, title, publication, when it was published. So for John Trimble, we would put his last name first. We would omit his middle initial. We would put Trimble, John. Then we put a period. We put the title next. Oops. Writing style. And then we would have to put the publication information, which you can find usually on the second page of the book. So this was published in 2000, and it was published by Prentice Hall. So next we would put publisher, Prentice Hall, comma, 2010. Here. A couple things to notice here. When you're doing works cited, it should be left indented. So it should be left justified. And then you indent the next line. You can take a look at the examples off of the OWL. For major works, like a book or a play or an album, they're in italics. So this would be italicized. If you're quoting an article, a news article, short story, an essay, it's in quotations. So this would be, if this was a short essay, it would be in quotations. Otherwise, it's in italics. That's the main thing to keep in mind. If you take a look at the icon example essay on Smokey the Bear, you can see how I do this. I first cite information about who drew Smokey the Bear, where did he come from. I did a little research and I found out that he was drawn by Aldrich Stall, and then was later managed by a Forest Service worker, Ruby Wendelin. And I have, in quotations, manager, because I took this from a source. I took it from a short essay from the Ad Council of America, who wrote up the information about Smokey the Bear. There isn't a page number, so there's no page number. And ad counsel are the authors. They're the corporation that published this essay. They don't have a specific list of who named it. So I just put that in quotations. And then I do it again later on down the page where I cite this statistic about how many people know about Smokey the Bear. I cite ad counsel again. Even though there's no quotations, there's information in there about Smokey that I didn't create, I didn't discover. Here's the works cited page. So works cited should be capitalized. The first line is left justified. And the first line is the author, ad counsel. The page that I got this from is called About the Campaign. It's about the history of the Smokey the Bear campaign. It came from a website, smokeythebear.com. And then this is the larger website. And then I linked the URL, and I linked when I access it, because this is a website. So if we open this website, this is what it looks like. So you have to do a little bit of thinking in order to cite this properly. So I found this information. So if you look down into this portion of this essay right here, there's a quotation that says, the creation of Smokey Bear was authorized by Forest Service, and the first poster was delivered on this date by artist Albert Stale, which is exactly what I said in my essay. So I took that information. That's why we have the citation. So we have the title of the page, we have the URL. Where do I find the author? Well, I couldn't really find one. All I found was this tiny little copyright at the bottom. It says 2009, the Ad Council. So that's what I cited as the author. So if you're using a website, make sure to do a little digging. See if you can find an about page. See if you can find out who wrote the article, and make sure to cite it. I'll go over some future details on citations and that sort of stuff.